I am Jacqueline Jones, your host of Promise and We Unleashed. Tonight's conversation, to have and to hold on. Our couples share real talk, or ask real questions, give honest answers, and share real love. In addition, you'll hear some nuggets from our marriage coordinators, Kenneth and LaVonda Brown, as they share insight into improving our lines of communication, affirming our relationships, and continuing to hold on. Thank you for joining this conversation.
My name is Dale Lucas. We've been married 26 years, going on 27.
And I'm Tracy Lucas. We're the Lucases.
My name is Pauline Gibson, and I'm married to this wonderful man next to me. I'll let him introduce himself. We've been blessed to be married for nearly 40 years. This May 22nd will be 40 years.
Yes, and I'm Noel Gibson, Sr. And she's right. We've been married nearly 40 years. In fact, it will be 40 years this coming May 22nd.
Hello, my name is Sandra.
And I'm Steve.
And we are the Cooks.
We've been married for 33 years. I am Toby Levan.
I am Shannon Levan, and we are the
Levans. Yes.
And we've been married 8 years.
Yes. Whole 8.
In one word, how would you describe your marriage?
In my opinion, we're like a partnership. We work well together. When we're on one accord, we get things done. It could be our goals or whatever. We work well together as a team.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I agree with him. We are a team, and we come together with our different problems, and we brainstorm how we want to tackle them. And it could be anything with, like, finances, children, grandchildren, the dog. We just come together and be like, okay, how are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? And we try to put things in strategic order so that we're productive. And I don't know why we're like that, but it works. So that's what we do.
Just being on one accord.
Genuineness.
Honesty.
Okay.
So, I just feel like he's a very honest person, and I can elaborate on that if you like. Because when I first met this guy here, I was in college, and I think for me it was love at first sight, and for him I don't think he was thinking iota about me. So I think that for me, I don't know if it's a feminine part of us that does this or if it's just me personally, but because I felt the love, I just wanted him to feel the same thing that I was feeling. Didn't feel the same thing, and he was honest enough to say that to me. I think you're a beautiful person. I like you, but I don't love you. And as much as it hurt me on the inside, I had to live with that until the day that he told me that he loved me. Then it felt so good, and I know that to me says everything about who he is. Because as a female, guys tell you what they want, what they know we want to hear, and then they're done with you. But it was the opposite with him. He didn't tell me what I want to hear. He told me what he felt, and then later on, when he feels what I was feeling, he told me the truth. And that's great. That's honesty right there.
Would you like me to go first?
Yes, you go first.
For me, I would say the one word that describes us is durable. Durable because marriages change or are supposed to change with the people. So if the marriage is durable, it can withstand the tests and trials and everything else in between. So, and thus far, we've been stretched a lot. So having 4 kids and being caretakers and caregivers and, just a lot of the various things that we dealt with in the past 8 years as far as our marriage, durable came to mind when, if that's one word I had to describe it for me.
Okay, so my word was unconventional, because the way we came together, the way we started, having our first child out of wedlock, and just everything about us was just not sort of quote unquote by the book. And even I say by the book, but I mean, even for myself, like it wasn't the way that I wanted it to go. But then we had like 4 kids in the span of like 5 years. Like
Yes.
It was fast. Like it was just really fast.
Yes.
And so a lot of what we did and how we came together and sort of even how we started was just not the usual. Like we haven't had any married time without anyone living in our house. There's either been a child or a family member or more children. It's never been just us. So I say unconventional for that reason.
Okay, take the hyphenation out. Soulmate.
I had a tough time. There's a bunch of words that I had. And so the one word that I came up with is faith. That's what I came up with. Because, so this will get into more, the reason why I said faith is because there's other words that it encompasses, such as compromise, humility, understanding, all those words, because marriage is both a spiritual thing and a legal thing. And so the two of those come together, and that's what I came up with.
Yes.
I would say it's work. And the reason why I say work is because it's very, very important. As we're doing the same thing in our relationship with the Lord, we're working to get better and better, to have a close relationship with Him, to get to know Him. We do that through word. We do that through our prayer time. We do that in fellowshipping and communing with Him. So that's the same thing you want to do with your mate. You want to work to get better to know them. And the only way you can do that is commune with them, fellowship with them, and get to know them. And so that's why I say it's work. When I say work, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because when we're on our natural jobs, we're working to do better. We're working to get recognized. We're working for those promotions. So if we can do that on our jobs, or if we can do that in other relationships, we definitely would want to do it in our marriage.
I would say sacrifice, because marriage is a sacrifice. It's about you it's a lot of self-sacrificing and taking yourself out of the picture and working to become one as a couple. And we talked about having the Lord in the middle and keeping Him in the center. And I think that's where the sacrifice comes, because a lot of times you want to put yourself in the center and put the focus on you, and you have to back away and sacrifice that position and say, Lord, I want you to be in the center.
What attracted you to your spouse that gave you the resounding yes that he or she was the one?
Dale? We really don't remember.
First, for us, it's hard. For me, I would say we had, in the beginning, we had a long distance relationship. And I was very, very skeptical at the time. But as time went on, I was going up there to see them seemed like every weekend. I was at the time I was working in Ohio, and the kids and her were back in Rochester. And I would never, go back and forth. My mother even said,
She must be special.
Yeah, she must be special. After the time, I would just say, she's the one. Yes, let's do it.
So just to back up a little bit, Dale and I knew each other as young kids, and we went to school together, and we just reconnected in our older age. And basically, to be honest, the first thing that got me was looks. He still looked good, and I was just like, okay, I see you. That was the first thing. And then we went after our conversations and getting to re-know him, because like I said, I already knew him. He was good.
Well, I guess I'll go this time. Right before we met, I was in a bad place. We met on the campus of Trenton State College, which is in Trenton, Trenton, New Jersey, or I should say Ewing, New Jersey, outside of Jackie, you know the school very well because you were a fellow alumnus. But anyway, it was kind of in a bad place. And I had just broken up maybe months before. Well, someone broke up with me months before my first semester at Trenton State. And I was a little depressed, still depressed over that breakup. And my thing was, I was in a new place, and I wanted to meet some new people to re-energize my spirit. While in a music arts class, I had a friend, and African American, and we were talking one morning, and I said, "Listen, you live on campus," because I lived off campus. I says, "Where all our people at? Can you introduce me?" He said, "Sure, after class, so let's do it." So we left class. We head on over to Decker Hall, and as you well know, Decker Hall at that time, I don't know if it still is, was an all-women's dormitory. And the first room we went to was Pauline's room. So we started out as a friendship, and then it evolved into love.
Amen to that.
And like she said, I must add, she would kind of poke at me, we were going out, we're going out. I mean, when are you going to say you love me? I said, no, hold up. I want to enjoy spending my time. But I try to be a genuine person. I didn't want to lie to her. That was the first thing, from my mind was to lie to her. Plus, my idea of the woman that I wanted to date and maybe marry at the time was completely different from, who she was. Body type, everything.
Hair type, long hair, fair skin.
Okay. We won't get into that. But my idea of who I wanted.
But God.
And she's right. But God, He answered my prayer. And I really didn't know that in the beginning. I really didn't know that at the time. But He had someone for me, just for me.
You want me to go first?
No, I'm going to go first because.
Well, tell the story right.
Well, we, like I said, as she previously said, it is unconventional how we met. We met at a pool party in my home state of Pennsylvania, and she was not from the state, but she had friends that lived in the state. So she was down there, and I heard through one of my friends, so we all went up there to where she was located. I was not myself, definitely not the person you see today, for sure. I actually was not even a trader at this time. So Ms. Jones, that was very, I just was a different person. But like that, 10 years ago, big difference.
You have to give a long answer.
Yeah. But I seen her working at the bar. She was a bartender at the time for some friends, and she caught my eye. And before leaving the pool party, I said I got to make sure I connect with her. So I ended up using one of my tricks. Asked her for her phone, put my number in the phone.
He asked if he could see the time.
Yes, I did. Put my number in her phone and then gave her a kiss on the cheek.
That wasn't my cheek.
The neck. And told her I would call her later or text her later.
So was that when it was a yes?
It was about a good 85%. I was like, you know what, she got potential. So I kind of knew that day because that night I texted her all night. And I that's just not me. I know me. At that time, I know myself. So 10 years ago, I'm just not texting a random female, all night. That's just not me. But with Shan, my wife, I text her all night, literally like all night. So.
Well, he knew before me. And he'll always tell the story differently. But on our first date, he knows what I'm about to say. On our first date, he kind of, I guess on a typical first date, you could say he overshared, like literally life story. And it wasn't, the fun stuff. It was like the deep, traumatic, hard, crazy stuff, which actually made me feel comfortable to share my own stuff. And then afterwards, he was like, I guess we should just get married. He denies it.
Yes, I know. I will not deny saying those words.
Yeah, you definitely said those words.
I did say those words, but I was laughing. So I was like...
It doesn't matter. Men don't joke about marriage.
Yes. But yes, I did say those words.
But that's what he said after we overshared. And so I had been praying to God for a husband. And I was like, God, I'm not going to kiss any other men. I was like, I'm not going to kiss any more men until you send me my husband. The next man I kiss will be my husband. And so towards the end of our first date, I kissed him. So then I knew.
Yes, I was very shocked because I didn't know how to take that. So me and the good man had to talk after that. But yes, she definitely did. And that weekend was interesting because I met her. She invited me to meet some of her family, and I was like, I've only known you like 3 days.
Well, I was visiting Pennsylvania because my family was having a reunion.
Yeah.
And so he invited me to church on Sunday. And my family was like, you going to church with this man? We need to meet him. So after church, he met them. And there we go.
Yes, there we go.
So, Steve and I, we were friends before we had a relationship. And we had a long distance relationship because he was working, we were in school, but he was co-oping and stuff like that. But Steve used to write some of the most beautiful letters. And he wrote this one poem that I remember part of it, but it says, I ponder often and wonder if why God let me meet you to share a special relationship so good, so loving, and so true. That was the beginning. And, there's more to it. I don't remember all the words after that, but with this pen and with these words, I'll tell you what is true. That was it. Yeah, to this day, I remember. That letter somewhere in the garage somewhere. I had seen it in maybe 20 years.
So I used to write letters. So I guess the one thing was the way she cared about people. It's just people care about other people in different ways, and it's just that if you can see why is it because to me people are either I can see things in black and white. It's either I like you or I don't like you, And so, but I will first put you in the like category until you do something. So, but she has a way of, everybody is, so me, I said, so that's where, in a sense, we are different, but some ways the same.
Complement each other.
It's been said, you can bury a marriage with a lot of little digs. How have you two been able to avoid the ditch or ditches?
That's a good question. For us, in the beginning, well, still, we didn't.
We didn't avoid the ditches. We was in there.
But as time went on, what we did was we go to Christian retreats,
Marriage counseling.
And seasoned couples.
Talk to seasoned couples, yeah.
Like Mother Jordan, Pastor Jordan, to use them
as examples.
Right. Different tools to use to avoid those ditches. See what other couples did, and so forth and so on.
It's not that we still get in the ditches, but we have learned through the tools that we learned through marriage counseling and the retreats and other seasoned couples to get out of the ditches quicker. You know, we don't let arguments linger, you know, and that old saying that they say, don't go to bed mad. We try to make sure that we do that. And like, okay, it's time to, you still mad? Okay, you got to get over it.
For me, it's maturity.
Yeah.
Well, through respect, you know what you say?
Absolutely, respect. I mentioned the word genuine earlier. I think with both of us, I think along with the respect, our marriage is genuine. You know, honesty is a big thing. You know, and I'm going to be candid with you, Jackie. You know, it's great that you can tell your partner everything, and for the most part, I do. But there are some things, you know, you have to guard.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to hurt that person. You don't want to hurt the partner. So what do you do then? For me, what works is communication. You know. That's what helps me, you know. If I'm in a situation where I know if I say something, you know, that I think might hurt her, I go to the Lord in prayer. Or that one friend, okay, male to talk to about my situation. And that's what usually helps me.
Nice. And again, you know, we're not perfect, but I think we're so twined together that we work it out. You know, we don't. I think the more you're into your relationship, the more you learn to respect each other. I would say when we were younger in our relationship, we started off inseparable. Then in the middle, you kind of like, you get upset about something. I'm gonna go to bed and not talk to you, you know, and you know what I'm saying. So now we're at the level where we have leveled off, and there's nothing that can break us. So now we're it's almost like I can say the next sentence out of his mouth. That's how much we're together. We're so much intertwined now. So you go to the you know, the honeymoon. Then you go through the riffraff where you know, let's see if marriage can make or break us. And then you say you're over that 7-year itch or whatever they call it. But, you know, I think we're over that now. So now we're like master at what we do with each other. And respect is a lot of it. And the communication, healthy communication becomes the best of us.
Avoid it. I wouldn't say we avoid it. I would say we just, you know, before the ditch gets too deep, you know, we can, you know, it's like you go into a pool and, you know how to float. We know how to float. God is of course centered in our lives. So he's definitely been, you know, I would say 95% of the reason that we're able to even make it thus far.
Well, I would say 100%.
I mean, it's really 100, but you know,
100% for me, because I've asked God. I said, God, if you want me to stay, I said, you have to let me know. I said, because at this point, there have definitely been points where I was like, God, I will pack up and go. You just give me the word. I'm out. But he did not. So I did not. And I think for us, it was just a matter of, well, no, I won't say that. I'm gonna say for me. For me, I had to learn that everything I say, has an impact. And I've never been I don't like confrontation at all. I don't like arguing or fussing or fighting, but we do it, it happens. But I've always been really intentional about not saying anything that I don't mean, because it stays. And there have been times where he said stuff in the heat of the moment that was really hurtful. And then he's like, oh, I didn't really mean it. And, that's kind of had an impact on me. And so I, only being able to control me, have sort of been well, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to say things I don't mean, because I think those are kind of those digs that sort of get bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And then I would say, outside of prayer, we've been to marriage counseling a few times. And I'm a firm believer that counseling should be a normal part of any relationship. My relationship with myself and then our relationship together, because there's just so much that goes on in the world. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. None of us are okay. We all need a safe place, a safe outlet, someone we can talk to that can sort of help us work through what we're feeling. And so I think counseling has been really big for us. For me, prayer. There have been times where I was like, God, it's only you. I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And he's always come through, always come through. So those, for me, it's sort of how we've managed to not dig a ditch, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree pretty much. She's summed up most things.
So I'm gonna be practical. I don't think we've avoided some ditches. I would consider we've avoided valleys. Valleys to me are dangerous. But I mean, digs in a sense that I think they help a person in some ways improve or take in consideration certain things. I mean, so sometimes we'll joke about certain things, or there's certain things that I'm passionate about, and that if they're not that way, then I get upset, and she knows that. And so you still have those little ditches. They're still there. Hopefully they're filled a little bit. They're not as deep, but they're definitely not valleys. You avoid those valleys. So.
Oh yeah, and he knows me. So when I start pouting, I take things inwardly. So I'm not one to really complain a lot. But he knows when I'm in my way. He knows me, and that helps get me out of when I get into my inward state, or I might look a certain way, or he knows me when I'm walking around the house and not stomping, but
That's a ditch.
Yeah, that's a ditch.
Yes. I think some couples make the mistake of thinking that you're going to stay married with that same person. You do, but along the way, you change. You blossom. There are ups and downs, but the question is, how are you going to make those adjustments? Can you make those adjustments along, your journey, as a couple? And I think what helped me was the fact that, when I was angry with her, I think about it. I give some hard thoughts. And, what will my life be, without Paul? And I would really think hard about that, so what will my life be? Whose life will I change because of us not being together? Do I want to hurt them? Because what I do affects everyone in our circle, okay? And I thought about that. I thought about how valuable that is. You know, I said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And it's
because like, what I do, and you know this, affects everything. You know, what she affects everything. You know, and I don't want to see that hurt.
And like he shared, you know, we can get a little bit more in, as far as challenges. When he went through his health issues with prostate cancer, that was a challenging time for both of us, you know, but I already made up in my mind, and a discussion that we have, that, you know, I'd rather have you around than anything else that's going on with you. That was me, to have him around and to hold sickness and in health till death do us part. And that was important to me. And God saw us through that time. That was some challenging time, you know, not just for me, not just for him, for both of us. And but God saw fit to work it through. And you know, and it was about 2 years or so that he went through. Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, even beyond that, you know, and she's referring to, you know, when you have your prostate removed, as a man, you know, what happens is you develop erectile dysfunction. I hope I'm not getting too deep here, but
listen, this is real talk.
Yeah. So, you know, I struggled with that as a man. She saw me struggle, but she supported me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that I went through, not only physically, I mean, that's one part, but it was the mental, you know, the mental stress, you know, of being a man and not being that man you once were, you know. Thanks be to God, you know, I'm still here, you know, because of that decision that we both made, you know, to make that choice, you know, that was going to, you know, potentially, well, it did, it saved my life.
Yep.
You know, but with, you know, there's, you know, in order to move forward, you know, there's something that you have to make. And that's one of the sacrifices that I had to make, you know, in order to live, you know. And I had to understand and come to grips with that.
Overcoming the ditch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And moving forward. Moving forward.
Not without struggle, not without strain, not without heartache, and not without pain, but never forsaken.
Download your copy today.
To hear my cry, to catch every tear.
How then do two imperfect people form a perfect union?
We use Christ as our foundation for our marriage. That is number one. Christ is our rock. And if you don't have that rock as a foundation, your marriage will fail.
And can I piggyback on that? And not only do we use Christ as our foundation as a couple, but as individual as well. And with that, we also use love and respect for one another to build on that foundation.
Dedication, trust, and respect one another is a must.
Forgiveness.
Yes.
And I think we talked about it earlier, learning to forgive quicker, you know?
Yeah.
And just admitting your mistakes and having patience with one another. We definitely had to learn that.
Working together, just, you know, working together. And, you know, again, you can use the same word, respect, and respecting each space, time, being sincere about our relationship and keeping God at the center of it.
Is it a perfect union? I don't know if you would call it perfect. You know, I mean, it's a loving union. But people say perfect.
Because
I don't know if it's
only
perfect.
God's perfect. So
It's a loving union.
Yeah, it's loving.
It's a, but that's my.
Or we could say it's a great relationship.
Yes.
I mean, for me, I would say it took me some time to understand her, and to understand that we are a team. I was functioning as a single entity, and thus we suffered as a whole. But after, talking to God and, counseling helped, just to see what flaws that you really have that you can correct or fix. That helped us because, she was the first person that I've ever let get this close to me. And I've never been married. So, I mean, it's all new. So, and then when we did have kids, I wasn't ready to be a father at the time. So it was a big pill to swallow, and I know I couldn't do it by myself. So good old Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thy own understanding. That's a Bible verse I really keep really close to me, and a lot of prayer, and he broke down the barriers that I was keeping locked up from her. And, once that happened, our marriage began to flourish and the foundation grew. It just got stronger, like a tree. The roots got strong. And, it's just not too much, that I tell her that all the time. It's not too much I would leave for if something was to happen. I mean, it's pretty, I'm here. So, I ain't going nowhere. So that's, how I feel.
Yeah. I second that, and I definitely, for me, it's always God. He's the reason why. Because I prayed for a husband, and he was not what I expected.
Nope.
But I do believe that he is perfect for me, in that we complement each other. We do work really well together. I think, at least in terms of our ideals when it comes to parenting. Maybe not always the execution.
Nope.
But we always have, similar sort of mindset in terms of like what we expect of our children, and how we want to raise them, and those things are really important to me. But I think our own imperfections, at least for me, I've learned a lot about myself through marriage, like a lot. Which has helped to grow me, to sort of improve how I communicate, how I interpret information, and how other people communicate with me. It's helped me sort of look through the world, like through a different lens. And, I think it's just another part of our transformation here on earth, right? So it's like you kind of become this new person when you get married, because now it's not just you, now you're a wife, or now you're responsible to someone else and for someone else. And so you have to think differently, you have to operate differently. And it definitely has brought me closer to God. He's kept me. He's kept me.
I mean, so granted, I think we will continue to be imperfect. I don't think we will achieve that perfect union. Getting close to it. I mean, you can get close to it, because you're a human being, and so this is where my engineering comes in. I mean, you've got two imperfect things. How can you make them, form a perfect union? It's very difficult. So, you try to get as close as possible, and some principles to that. You've got to be able to compromise, adjust, know when to not say anything, when to say something, like I say, when to walk away, or when to confront those type of things, and I think that you want to be able to protect that person from any dangers. And so I'm from Niagara Falls, so we were up in Niagara Falls one day on the Canadian side, up near the gorge. We were just walking along, and you have this premonition. I said, something's gonna happen. I said, Sandra, don't go down there. Don't step down there.
There was rock.
I said, don't go down. Because I just, you sense something. And so in the protective me, I was trying to give us, no, I'm going to step on this stone. Sure enough, black. So then I said, okay, come on, back up. So I had to be consulting in that sense. And so, you try to, be helpful, even though sometimes, it's like a little kid. You say, don't do that. Sometimes, and I do it too. I said, see, don't do that. Certain things I may say.
And I think for us, we have interest in some of the same things, a lot of the same things. But then, what the things that we don't have, that we don't do things together, it's okay. We allow each other to blossom in whatever thing that we are in. And I think it's just continuing to grow as a person, grow within yourself, knowing yourself. And if you know yourself, then it helps with the relationship.
What do you think makes for a happy marriage, or do you think happy is the word that you should use at all?
Can I go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So I had a different answer, looking at it from a different way. But ideally, I always think of like yin and yang, right? Like one can't exist without the other. Together, they're one, but they're also opposites. And I think there's so much about us that are opposite, essentially. But I think the challenge of really making a marriage work is figuring out how the two opposites can work in cohesion and sort of like together. I'll give you an example. So a lot of times my husband is very much like, I'm gonna do for me whatever it is I need to do. And that's, go to the gym, buy, I don't know, he's always buying stuff related to working out or whatever. But he's always like in the zone, like I'm doing me. And I'm very much like, I gotta take care of everybody else. I gotta make sure that the groceries are purchased and the laundry is done and everybody's got their appointments. Like I'm always sort of putting everyone else's needs before my own. And so there was every now and then I'm like, ugh. But I'm learning that I can actually use some of what he does to sort of improve my own self-care. And I'm hoping that me sort of like putting the needs of the family first can kind of rub off on him so he can, sometimes look at the situation through that lens. And so instead of it being two opposing things, it's sort of something he can push me into and I can push him into, and it can sort of work. If that makes sense.
I like that. For me, I would say, instead of happy, I would say probably successful. I would say successful because a marriage is a partnership. And in a partnership, in order for it to work, there has to be equal distribution of everything. And like my wife said, I am a little more self-centered at times, but I have, over the years, I have definitely improved in that aspect, and still work in progress. But I'm, as like you said, as you get older, you grow. And each year, I think that we are married, we are growing together. So in that aspect, yeah, I just think successful is a better term, a better word than I guess happy. Because happy, everything's easy. It's da-da-da-da. It's, it's like it's no worries. That's what happy feels like to me. And that's not realistic, if that makes sense, because you're going to go through some rough patches. You're going to go through some different situations. And whether, you have kids or not, and you're married, you're still a partnership. You entered into a partnership with this person. So
I will add, I actually would say happy. And I would say that because I remember there were points in our marriage where I was not happy. Like, when I say unhappy, I mean like sort of the norm. Like, on a regular basis, from day to day, there were periods where I just was not happy, to the point where, I might not have felt like celebrating if it was our anniversary, or I didn't feel like I could honestly say, I still feel the way I feel about you today as I did before. And we kind of had like a turning point in our marriage where not all of a sudden, but some, like he said, some barriers got broken down. And then after that, I felt like even when things were hard, I could still say I was happy. So happy for me is kind of like, that's how you should feel even when things are not going as well as they should be. And I think for the past 3 years, for the past 3 years, I've felt happy in our marriage.
I don't think that I would use a happy marriage, because you're not always happy in your marriage. I think that a successful marriage is a better word, and you're able to achieve it by working at it, growing together, and putting in the work. And when I say putting in the work, I mean being appreciative of one another, being okay with each other's differences, and being respectful, and just what you say, Dave?
Knowing each other's weaknesses, and just support one another.
Oh, and one other thing I do want to say is learning each other's love language, knowing who you're married to. Because if you know who you're married to, then you know what the triggers are. You just know what will work and what won't work.
I mean, happy is there, but the thing is, is it fulfilling?
Yeah.
Are you giving back? Are you growing? Those type of things. I don't. Happy to me is even though it's a 5 little words, very simple. It doesn't encompass marriage, because marriage is very complex, and to have the word happy in front of something complex doesn't really capture everything.
What doesn't make a happy marriage? I say, if anything, communication. You have to have communication, no matter what. And there are times in which, like I said, I'm an inward person. I'm non-confrontational, and so I will withdraw sometimes. But I know that within me, and I know I have to get through that. If you don't communicate, then that's not going to help in having a lasting union.
But communication can come in verbal and non. I mean, good and bad. So you don't really, talking may not always be the form of that, but in a way of just, offering something.
How have you kept your lines of communication open? What have been the challenges in communication?
Basically, I was saying that that's still something that we work on, but we do try to be in the present, So like when I'm talking, I don't want him watching football. So I do try to be, that's another thing, timing the conversation. So if I know that it's time for him to watch football, I don't be trying to have a conversation. So we do try to be in the present, and we try not to give each other eye contact. And what else?
Listening.
Oh yeah, that too.
Okay.
You were the challenge.
Yes, the person is the challenge. So I will admit, I will fully take the fault for the lack of communication in our first, I want to say at least 5 years, about five and a half. Yeah. So, because I was really like a safe with a lot of layers. Like it's like and I wouldn't let her in. I wouldn't let her into the most deepest parts of me. So I would have moments where, and she'll say something to me and it would strike a chord, but it's like, all right, I'm not letting you in yet. I want to let her in, but it took a lot for me to actually let her in. And like I said, just not being ready for everything that was thrown at me, the multiple roles, father, husband, parent. It's like, okay, there's a lot going on here. And then still trying to have a personality, like still trying to be me. It was a lot. So, but once those lines were down, it's been great. But yeah, I was the roadblock in our lines of communication. Because I tell my wife this all the time. I told her this in the beginning when we used to get into argument stuff, or when we were in a good place and after arguing. I'm like, and she'll be talking to me and she thinks I don't hear her. I said, I usually say to her, I'm always listening. Yeah, I say, I hear you. I might not say anything, but I'm always listening because it's always in my mind what you say. Just because I don't say anything don't mean I didn't hear you. I'm listening. I might not respond.
Right. So then I'm like, well, I don't know how I know you heard me.
And she always, she used to always be like, she'd be like, so you ain't hear me? So you just not gonna say nothing? And I'm like, and so because back then my verbiage, it was not the nicest. So, and I just didn't know how to respond to certain things. So my reaction is either to walk away from the situation or to not say anything. So that took some time just to adjust, recalibrate. And that's how, communication channels got open. Yeah.
And I think during that period, we arguing was something we were really, really, really good at. And so, like I said, I don't like to argue. Growing up in my home, there was a lot of yelling. And so that's something that I've always been really sensitive to. And because the majority of the time I would try to have a conversation with him, it would turn into an argument, I stopped saying what I was feeling. I stopped sharing, anything that was bothering me. So I just kind of let it build up because I was like, if I say it, he's not going to hear it. We're going to argue first. Because it was this weird pattern where it was like, I would say the thing that I was feeling and I would, use my I statements. And he would automatically take offense to it. We would get into an argument. And then 4 to 5 hours later, he would come back and say, oh, well, actually, I'm sorry. And I hear what you're saying, and but that was so toxic to me. I was like, why do we have to do that before we can get there? So I stopped saying what I was feeling. And so for as long as he was sort of keeping me out, I was keeping him out too. And I didn't realize it actually, because it affected our sexual life, because when I wasn't feeling emotionally connected to him, I didn't want to be intimate with him. And so, it wasn't until he sort of realized that there was a barrier that I was even willing to sort of admit that, okay, maybe I played a part in this too. And then once we both sort of opened our communication, then our sex life got much better.
How you deal with those disagreements really matters, because it's not, it's not a playbook for this stuff. It's not a playbook for, being married. There's a lot of books out here that try to tell you, but every marriage situation is different. Everybody comes into a marriage different, and the two people are different. Y'all come together to create a marriage. So we just found out what worked for us.
And we figured out our triggers. For example, if he's hungry, he's way more irritable.
Yes, that's.
We also figured out that if we go too long without having sex, we both get really irritable together.
That is a fact. So yes, the lack of.
But it's we had to learn it. We had to figure it out. It's wait, what's happening? Because there'll be times where literally we're why? There's nothing wrong right now. Why are we acting like this? And it's
I have a tendency to go within. So I'm not one that's going to argue about anything, or it's going to take a whole lot for me to verbalize something. So yeah, that's with me. I am a non-confrontational, and I kind of withdraw sometimes.
But yeah, she is, and so I try to force her. Get that. You got to get that. I mean, because otherwise people will just run over you.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have to certain conditions in which you have to say, okay, this is what I won't accept, and this is what I will accept. So.
How do you keep the spice in and the mice out of your marriage?
Yeah, I got some. Just wearing high heels, 90s.
Okay, so what he means is what works for us may not work for other couples, and so I think it has to do with where you're at in your marriage. So what you could do in your 20s, you can't do in your 50s or 60s. And be okay with that. And also not comparing yourself to other couples. Okay. So and where you're at in the stage of your marriage, because a lot of things do come into play that can mess you up, So but what we do, what do we do there? We try to mix it up.
Yeah. Try different things.
Be spontaneous.
Yeah, that's where we're at now. We're more well, I'm trying to be more spontaneous because the kids are gone and everything.
We're empty nesters.
Empty nesters. Yes. Yes. So, hey, let's do this. Let's go.
And it doesn't have to be anything expensive. And I like to cuddle. And so we do a lot of that. We do a lot of kiss a lot. And we try to laugh a lot because, it's not good to always be serious. So we try to do things that, laugh a lot. So, yeah. I think the mice is, like I said, don't compare your marriage or your spouse to other marriages or other spouses, because that can really tear up a marriage.
I got one thing for the guys. Do not miss the important dates.
Doing things together, fun things together. We bike ride together.
Every time make things a little more easier because that the kids are out, they're grown, they have their own families now. It makes our relationship a lot easier, more like how it was before the kids. Okay, we can have more fun time together.
Walk around naked if we want to,
I don't, but But if that's what she want to do, God bless her.
You have to keep that spice going and complimenting each other.
Being very candid, I don't know, and she knows this. I like to mess around. When we're out, if I I may get myself in trouble, but I don't, because I know
where he's going with that.
If I see a nice looking woman pass me by and I give a look, wow, something like that. She knows what I'm talking about. I'll nudge her, she say, you know what, you know where to
go. That's probably more my department than his.
I mean, I'm listening to this. I want to hear all of this.
I don't know what to say. I just know that it's always me. Like, I'm the one that will sort of initiate, let's have a date night, or let's do something different, or, you know, buy some toys or some whatever. I don't know. He's like simple.
I am.
And I'm like, no, we need to do something different. We need out of the box. Try something new.
I'm working on it. Once again, it's a work in progress. So I'm, getting better. I'm getting better slowly.
We like I said, we do, there's a lot of things we do together. I mean, and then there's things that we try to do separate when we have our time. So you've got to weigh those things together. I mean, there's activities we do together, even though she doesn't like to do the outside lawn work. We try to go out to, we try to have like a date night, we go out and have a date night and stuff, and just be around people, and then we can come in and be just with ourselves and stuff. And then we can go even further, and so she can be in one part of the house doing something, I can be in another.
Yeah.
So you can, as long as you keep that balance of all of those.
And continuously to stay connected.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could be downstairs, he can go upstairs. Football season is a point. I know that starting in September through now middle of February, that on Sundays, if I'm on the road, don't call. Don't call during that time of the year. And I tell people, I said, well, September to October, what y'all want to do? We can do whatever we want to, because my husband is going to be home watching football. But when football season is over, see ya. See ya. I got to go. We got to go hang out. So.
What do I admire the most about you?
What I admire most about Mr. Lucas is his kindness. He is genuinely a kind, good person. And he's always attentive to my needs. He cares if what's going on. And he's not a talkative person, but when he's there, like, Tracy, are you okay? And it could be mentally, physically, even with my scare with my illness, I couldn't really turn or do anything because he was just there, wanting to be supportive. And I really appreciate that. I mean, because it was a scary time, but I knew he had my back and he's loyal.
For Tracy, is her strength, amazing strength. When she was sick or feeling, low, she's always encouraging others, always on the phone, emailing, or what have you. Is her strength. She's affectionate, caring, supportive, and she's a great person to our kids.
For me, again, I just think Noel is a God-fearing man, right? And that's in itself is a happy medium for me, because when you have a person that's God-fearing, they're going to think twice about how they do things, what they do, and what that end result is. So for me, I admire that in him, and even with that God-fearing sense that he has, everybody around us is children. They get nurturing from that.
With her, there's a few adjectives I could describe about her that really drew me to her. Was her spirit. She has a spirit. She's full of compassion. She has a giving spirit. Every time I turn around, she's doing something for somebody. Almost to a point where it kind of aggravates me. Those very same people turn around and say something, do something that is not so nice, to her or towards her, or use her. but her compassion towards other people is amazing.
He loves hard, like, and he is dedicated to family, like our family together, and then his family. He's sort of that one. He's reliable, dependable, and if you ask for it and he has it, he will give it, and not really think twice about it. Sometimes that's in trouble, but I do admire sort of how big his heart is, and how loving he can be.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm honored. I would say for my wife, I admire her perseverance. She doesn't know all the time, but yes, she's held. Yes, she is. Yes, physically I might have the goods, but mentally she,
Physically what?
You strong. I didn't say you wasn't strong.
I grew 4 babies.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And brought all of them into this world.
Yes, you did. But your body's designed to do these
yes.
things.
So just so we're clear, we do this with the kids all the time.
Yes.
I was like, Daddy might have the muscles, but Mommy's the strongest. Just so we're clear.
Yes. Yes.
Continue.
Her perseverance. It's been plenty of times where, she says something to me and she does. I won't tell her then and there, like, because I can't tell her stuff. Her head get big sometimes, so I can't tell her everything all the time.
Don't tell
but
me nothing.
I'll tell her after the fact, like, yeah, I really needed to hear X, Y, Z, and it's just, that kind of little stuff I think really takes a marriage a long way, because when you can inspire each other or admire each other, it's nothing but infinite possibilities to grow.
He talks about me helping others. He's the bigger one. He's the one with the bigger heart. He really is. I love the way he thinks. I think that's what drew me to him anyway, because we could be Felix and what is it, the odd couple? Yeah, Felix and the Oscar. The neat one is him. The analytical mind is him. Me is like, okay, whatever. So, I just love his presence. I love the way his thoughts, I can't think of anything. He just, I'm not saying he's perfect.
I'm not perfect. I will tell you that right now.
He's not perfect. Because somebody who comes in and makes sure that the towels are lined up, sometimes that can work a person. Or, I don't put up the groceries because I don't put the cans in the right place. I know where my place is. But
I don't mind doing it.
But he is I love his mind. I love his spirit. I love his right now he is, like you said, teaching kids from 3rd through 8th graders how to play chess. And so I get a phone call and he's so excited about this. And I love to see that in him. I really do. I am Team Steve. Team Steve.
So as I said before, I think the thing about caring for people, like I say, granted, there's things I like to do, but I will, I put people in 1 or 2 bins. If you've done something that I don't think is fair or right, ask you. If the answer is just, you give me just because you wanted to, you go in a category, and you'll know. If I don't speak to you, you'll know why. But she always tries to say, well, why don't you speak to him? So she has that tendency to say, looking at all good for all. Sometimes I can't, I can't do this. That's it. So, we're, like I said, there is some commonality between us, and then there's some slightly differences that we can kind of compromise on, in the sense that,
and complement.
Yeah, and so, you reach a point in your life where you're trying to enjoy yourself and have fun and enjoy it with your partner, your life partner, and that's where it is.
One of the things I would say as far as a building block is when you are communicating with your mate, to make certain the person who's receiving the message say, okay, now this is what I'm hearing you're saying. Are you saying XYZ? And if they're not, then the person who actually is giving the message needs to validate or say, no, that's not what I said. This is what I'm saying. So we call it a sender-receiver message. And it may seem kind of odd or funny at times in a relationship when you're doing this, but to get the message across of what the person wants to deliver is very, very important. That you say, okay, what I am hearing you say is this. And that's probably not what the person is saying, or it could be. But the main reason is you definitely want to do that sender-receiver. That's kind of a tool that we call the sender-receiver message.
To sandwich your message with praise and thanks, that kind of thing, so that people will receive the message. If you ever go to a deli shop and ask for a sandwich and they just give you the meat, you wouldn't want it just with the meat. The bread is what makes it editable, and for somebody to receive it, they have to have the bread. So I think a lot of times people don't receive things when you give them raw meat. But if you sandwich it with praise and say, hey, listen, you're doing a great job. I understand you're really working hard, but here, let me give you something, and I'm give them some advice or something, even criticism. And then when you're done with that, you end up with more praise. I think we talked in our sessions about learning the love language. And I think the love language is so important for you to be able to communicate and affirm what you feel or how you feel about your spouse. So if you don't know their language, you really can't really give that affirmation in an effective way. So you have to, number one, learn their language.
As just to piggyback off of that with the love languages, you want to make certain that you keep the tank full. In the love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, where we know words of affirmation, we know acts of service, physical touch, receiving gifts, and quality time. Those are the main ones he talked about. And there's normally a primary and a secondary, but all of them can be something that your spouse would need or your mate would need at a certain time. But the whole key is to make certain the primary and the secondary love languages are full. Their tank is full with that. You may be doing other ones, but make sure their tank is full, because now you are definitely concerned about them. You're into them. And as Ken was saying, you are affirming how much you want to be with them. Make a decision that today I'm going to do all I can to make our marriage work, or I'm going to do all I can to keep our marriage growing. Because you may have a good marriage, you may have a great marriage, but you still want to grow in it, just like you want to grow in the Lord. So you want to make a decision, commit yourself to wanting to be the best you can be in your marriage for your spouse. And when we do that and committing to that, then there's no way, no devil in hell or anywhere can actually break up the marriage. Will challenges come? Yes, but they should be able to bounce off because I'm committed and the other side is committed, and we're going to do the best we can.